All right, Rob. So, how did you get into trading, and what was your entry point into the markets, and how did you start off?
It's kind of weird. I cut a long story short. I've always worked in the music industry. I got bored, did a degree, ended up working for McLaren for some bizarre reason, and I got really interested in the whole day trading thing because of my father's background and who's not around anymore. And I've been trying to find. I'd always found it fascinating. I've been trying to find a way in for ages, and then I kind of forgot about it. And I was doing a gig at Reading Rock Festival, and this guy started talking to me about Bitcoin, which I'd already heard a lot about. I hadn't really paid attention to it. I first heard about Bitcoin, I think, 2000, March 2010 or something, and I kind of followed it, didn't really do much. But then he was talking to me about it, it just intrigued me. And then when I went up to go and see my cousin, he was talking about something on the dark web, and I just suddenly fell down a rabbit hole into Bitcoin. And I ended up buying some Ethereum. I bought 10 Ethereum um, after about a week of just searching the internet. And then I got stuck into the whole. I discovered that this guy Supo Man on the YouTube. He's my first YouTube person, I was called. He's kind of interesting in a way, but it took me down the whole ICO thing. So I got caught up in the whole ICO thing in sort of autumn of 2017, and but I actually did really well up until up until the crash of like the very beginning of 2018, and I'd spread all my Ethereum into different altcoins or things like projects I thought were going to work, and then I basically watched all the way through 2018, watching the markets just basically collapse. Didn't understand what I was even looking at, and I made a couple of friends on Telegram. One of them was into trading, and I just thought, oh, it's all gambling and that sort of thing. And I kind of ignored it. And then finally, in 2019, I I'd sort of forgotten about it, and I scraped everything I had together and I ended up with like $500 worth was all I had left, and I think I put it into a Cardano, and that went down further. So I just bundled it all into Bitcoin, and it was around that time that I found Crown because there was another YouTuber I was watching, Mark Demezel, who mentioned Crown's crypto cave. I saw it, and I just got kind of hooked. I found the guy really interesting. I really liked his personality. I liked the way he was talking. It was just fine. So I just started watching that daily, and then ended up taking this course. Um, sort of. So I've been doing this for 18 months. So about 18 months ago that was, and I've just been trying to learn ever since, really. And then I've just joined my first mentorship, and I'm just getting stuck in. That's kind of where I am. Um, I made a lot of money in the bull market, and then lost it all on this last bit of bear market. So I'm still learning the road. I mean, one of the things that I realised is that you can't really make money in a bull market. You can't learn anything, and it's really difficult to learn. You learn in the bear market, and you learn the hard way. Um, and I found it emotionally painful. I'm not going to deny that, but it's just too fascinating to stop. That's kind of my story really, and that's where I am now. And I've gone on to I've dipped all the indicators because they never really made sense to me anyway. And so I've chosen to go for purely price action only. Now, I don't even have the volume bars. Occasionally I do. Sometimes they're handy. Have a look at something if when my mental pointing is coming out. But essentially, I'm trying to be able to see that in the chart. And I mean, it's not the easiest way to do this. I think a lot of people start with indicators because it makes more sense to them. But for me, I mean, being slightly on the spectrum, I kind of I have to know things to a really, really deep level to actually take them in. I'm actually quite a slow learner. Once I get a concept, nothing's going to take me away from not understanding it anymore. I mean, I've really, really internalized stuff. So
So,
that's
was
kind of
there
what
a
I
uh, direct area in time, like a distinct pivot in time, where you made that switch from indicators to price action only, or was it something that kind of happened gradually?
I suppose it was when I first started with Crown's course. Actually, I was looking at the indicators. I was going through the first part of it, which is all indicators, and I I, I couldn't make any of them work. And I've got a very mathematical background. I'm a complete maths geek, engineering, mathematics, all that sort of thing is what fascinates me. It's a great way, and just I couldn't. To me, it just didn't make sense why you'd use something that is derived from price to use to decide your entries and exits when price is right there. And trading is about time and price. And time is so important that why would you use something that suddenly delays that time? And all indicators lag and delay because price comes first. Someone puts in an order, someone else buys it. You're then going to put an indicator on top of that that tells you what's happened like a little while ago when you can see it directly there in price. So there was always a disconnect for me. There was always a disconnect, and I think it was when we joined the little group that we formed. That's when I started going more onto the price only and actually making that switch. So it's probably about 6 months ago, maybe. I decided, yeah, forget the indicators completely.
Yeah, for me, it kind of happened in a roundabout way because I was, I knew certain people who were in the trading development process, and I was in contact with them, and so I was in contact with a lot of people, some of who were successful, some of who were, uh, ended up not making it and ended up burning out, and I started to notice a trend among the people who were successful that they all sort of started gravitating towards a deep understanding of price action, and that kind of made me
Yeah,
think a little bit. And it made me, at least open the rabbit hole for me to at least start to go down and explore those
yeah,
type of ideas. Yeah,
that resonates with me too. Um, that what you just said there resonates with me directly as well. Actually, I think the people that I was looking at, price action only.
yeah, and
It's an
for me personally, that period of time marked the period in time where I stopped losing money and started being profitable. Um, so now is that a coincidence? Probably not. Um, and there, so it's not just theoretical. I have very real world practical results to show for it. Um,
yeah, I'm still not quite there yet. I'm still a learning process.
I
Um,
think the kind of the downside, right? I think we should throw in the caveat that people. I guess you could use indicators successfully, but maybe talk about some of the
Absolutely.
pitfalls that they lend themselves to. And one of those is that a lot of times people will interact with the market, and they already have an idea, or they've sort of already made up their mind, right? And then there's all these different indicators. There's like thousands of indicators, and they pick the one that tells them what they want to see.
Yeah,
You know, of
yeah,
course, you could do that with price action, right? I mean, there's a lot of different distinctions in price action. You can do the same thing there, but there's just more
absolutely.
opportunity with indicators, right? You can find dozens that tell you what you want to see.
You know what, though? I think ultimately it all still just comes down to your psychology. It doesn't matter whether you use price action or whether you use indicators. It's your own particular flavour. Because we both know people that like indicators, we both know people that like price action only. Um, I think ultimately it all does come down to uh, can you get out of the trade? Can you have the nuance to be able to set aside what it is that completely counterintuitive world that I think is trading? You know, I see people who are asking me about it, and then they'll hold. they'll buy an altcoin thinking it's going to go up. It goes the wrong way, and they'll just go, you know what? I'm just going to hold it because it's going to go back up again, isn't it? And it's like, well, actually, not necessarily. And then when you say, when you get up to when it gets up to an all-time high and you're in profit, you should take some out. And they're like, yeah, but what if it then goes up higher? It's like I'll miss out on all of that, and it's just FOMO talk everywhere. And I think even a year and a half into the learning process myself, I still find that is a really difficult thing to drop.
So it sounds like for you, kind of, being in this group, this closely knit group, has kind of accelerated your development and got you, to focus.
100%,
Yeah. Well, it makes sense. I
100%.
mean, there's that old quote that you are what the sum of the people you surround yourself with.
Absolutely.
Um,
I completely subscribe to that. You should always be surrounding yourself with people that you aspire to. Um, and it sounds cruel, but you drop the people that are dragging you down because they're not helping you. And I think that's generally the rule of life as well. It sounds a bit callous, but then I spend a lot of my time studying anyway on my own. So it's, but yeah, definitely. I think this was one of the greatest ideas ever was to form this group, this kind of splinter group, focused. We're all very, very focused on what we want to do. We're dedicated. We all want to do this for a living. Whether we'll all make it for a living, who knows? But at least, it's kind of, we've got the foundations for greatness there, I think. And I
yeah, I
think other
think
people that are totally finished, I think they should do the same. They should form groups and focus.
yeah, I think the most important thing you can do if you want to, accelerate your development in trading is get really clear about what you want, right? And like
Yes.
really sort that out on a deep level and going into what you said, like cutting out things that you don't want and being really ruthless in doing that. And
Yeah. That's the hard part, I think. Being rooted is dropping old patterns that comfort you is kind of hard because what I'm starting to learn now is that you do have to step out of your comfort zone. You have to step out of your comfort zone. In other words, how you lived before. It's a lifestyle change. It's not just learning information about how to do something. You have to get disciplined. You have to step out of your comfort zone, and you have to move forward. You have to be very clear about what it is that you want because your life is going to be different from what it was previously. That's kind of what I'm starting to learn. The more successful people I speak to, um, the more that actually starts to ring out.
yeah, I think one of the things that is difficult about trading and getting, is that you're trying to be somebody who you can't comprehend in your current state. And,
Yes.
so it's like, okay, well, how do you do that? Right. Well, I think there's a little bit, an element of shutting yourself off in a sense from what would be considered the opinion of the crowd or the mob or society. And I know that can have some kind of negative connotations, and hopefully I can separate that from those negative connotations. I just mean that some of the expectations and the implicit understandings, societal norms that you're operating on, that you may not, you may be subconsciously operating on it, right? Like the idea that you need to like social approval is one good example, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
if you want to make it in trading, you kind of have to have a lone wolf mentality, right? Where
I,
you don't,
I
you
agree.
doesn't matter. You don't need anybody's approval. Nobody has to tell you that you're doing the right thing. It just doesn't matter what they think.
I agree. There is a caveat to that is actually embedded in what you said, and that is that you can get very alone. I think I know a couple of people mentioned this, that it can be, I think you have to be able to find an outlet. If you're a loner type, you can isolate yourself very easily doing this. So I think having a group, having a group of people around you doing similar things is good. But you're right, you have to find a way to make it you not be looking for approval from them. I think we've got a fantastic balance in our group. In doing that, we kind of all understand that the trading process is it's a bit like religion. It's in that it's a very personal journey, and you can't really put your ideas onto someone else because we're all different. We have different brains, and different brains see different things in different ways, and they learn in different ways. So it's a very personal journey, but you still want a community around it. And I think we've got a really good balance in our group as to how we manage to do that.
Yeah,
If that
definitely.
makes any sense.
Oh no, definitely. One of the other things that is a little bit unique to trading is that there isn't anybody there to tell you what to do. You know, I mean,
No,
there's there are people that you can learn from, but at the end of the day, right, when you're sitting down to interact with the market, nobody's looking over your shoulder. There's nobody to hold your hand. It is a very empowering position to be in, and also a very dangerous position to be in.
there's also the other thing to be aware of, and I think the sooner you become aware of this, the better, because I think it sounds like a negative, but I think it's actually positive. There's nobody there that's going to pick you up when you fall. When you fall and scrape your knee, you start crying, you're the one that's got to pack it up together. You know what I mean? The sooner you can learn that, the less likely you are to fall in a way where you can't get back up again.
That's
I
kind of
think one of the
what I was kind of touching on when I mentioned societal norms. Like we kind of have a social acceptance that if we veer way off the course, that people who are more successful are going to help us out and make sure that we don't die or or starve or
This brings
any of
up
the
a
most
really
horrible,
interesting,
the things that happen naturally in nature, right? If you break your
yeah.
leg in nature, you're dead, right? I mean, nobody's going to save you. So, but
This brings up a really interesting point. Sorry to cut you off. This it brings up a really interesting point because there are people that can help you through that. It's in a different way, and that's where why a mentor becomes useful because the mentor will guide you without telling you what or how to do it, but the mentor will be there to guide you do that. Whereas, and I think it takes a long time to get to the point where you realise the mentor is important, and B, where do you find a mentor? I mean, that was my biggest question. It's like, where do you find one? Initially, you'll probably have to pay for one. Do you know what I mean? But unless you actually revolve around those circles, if you're lucky enough to be in the financial circle, you can find someone like that. But I think a mentor, I'd be interested to see how many people succeed without a mentor, if I'm going to be brutally honest.
I would say most people that I've talked to do have somebody
Yeah,
who's in
I
a
think so.
not, you know, maybe you want to use the word mentor or a different word, but somebody who's been in the game longer than they have that they can, talk to and bounce ideas off. That's definitely really common.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
For me personally, that was a guy named Bob Wyatt on CME Group, and
Mm,
he helped me out a lot when I was first starting out. Taught, kind of showed me the way and kind of kind of corrected some of the illusions I had very early on, and that's particularly helpful because a lot of those, I may not have corrected those for years, right? But he kind of just snapped them in half right away, just ripped the
yeah.
band-aid off.